Hi there, I'm nicodehaan, and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced and natural wild world.
To recover our natural health and regain our rights and freedoms. And I'm Ellen Dahan.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Durango, Colorado. Right now, about 70 degrees and going up to about 78, something like that, maybe 80.
Maybe 80.
Sun is out. It's beautiful. Sure. Please subscribe to our YouTube and Odysee channels. Hit the follow button, hit the like button to help our channel grow. We also post on Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you hit the link below the show notes, you can maximize your nutrition from products with products from Mother Earth Labs. These are products that we use. So check that out. We look at mainstream news stories about anti-aging, natural health, history, climate, as well as our freedoms, and we do our own analysis. And all the topics for today's show are in the show notes listed below in the description. Any comments?
Not only the topics, but the actual articles.
Yeah, the actual
The
articles.
links to the articles.
Yeah. Any questions or comments, hit the link below the show notes, or you can hit me at nicodehaan at me. I can put that. See, first of all, yeah, subscribe. Mother Earth Labs. I almost forget this stuff. I'm not a real pro here. And then that one, yeah, nicodehaan at me.com. So check that out. Or you can leave the comments on YouTube or Odysee, and eventually we'll get to those.
Or on Facebook.
Or on Facebook, yeah. Okay, it's been a while since we've been on here. We took a little break over the holidays.
Over my birthday.
Over your birthday, that's right. 79 birthday.
Yeah.
Supposed to not give it away for women, but I think it's fine. I don't know
it's
why.
Just a number.
Yeah, that's right. I always look forward to my birthday. And
yeah,
I've always
I had a wonderful birthday.
Yeah, you did. Got flowers.
I got flowers.
Gifts.
Yeah, it was a lovely birthday.
Yeah.
All my garden bloomed like crazy in the yard. So
Saw some friends.
Saw lots of friends.
Yeah.
Heard from everybody. It was great.
It's a beautiful thing. Well, today we're going to be talking about why the food here in America kind of sucks, and
no, we're going to be talking about the difference between the food and the way it tastes and the quality of the food from USA versus basically the rest of the world, or certainly Europe.
Mostly Europe, but yeah, the best of the world and the rest of the world. So the first article is a food and health in Europe lessons for America.
Yeah, so apparently during the COVID crisis, the lockdown and so on, and people started eating a little bit better. But
I think they're cooking at home a little bit more.
They were cooking at home. Right, they couldn't go out for fast food.
So when it comes to
what
comes to mind when you think about European food? Maybe fantastic Italian pasta, French quiche, Spanish tapas, or German bratwurst. As somebody who lived in Europe,
says the
author, but I have too. I have indelible memories of wandering through farmers markets, seeing and smelling and tasting amazing fruits, vegetables, meats, cheeses, local dishes, and of course, incredible bread, hot from the oven.
And the residents of the Belgian neighborhood that the author lived in did much of their shopping at the local markets, going several times weekly and greeting the vendors by name. Most of the offerings at the market were organic, grown by local farmers using traditional techniques without additives, preservatives, or artificial ingredients.
Yeah, the result is a food of phenomenal taste and quality, reflective of European values and treasured by European consumers.
So do any of us have the same experiences or feelings regarding food in the United States? So the author says, well, things have improved here. And returning from overseas, he saw more organic produce, more antibiotic and hormone-free animal products than he did 10 years ago. Hardworking U.S. small farmers are valued. Farmers markets, growing in number, generally carry healthy quality products.
Nevertheless, there remains an enormous difference between the quality of European food and food consumed by most Americans. Of course, we started about 20 years ago or so, maybe a little bit longer, of strictly going food shopping at the health food stores.
With the exception of paper goods. Paper goods, we went to the supermarket.
Yeah.
but for fruit, for edibles.
Yeah, for produce and for meats and things like that. And lately it's been more meats than produce. We do consume some produce, but very, very little. And we mostly use that as condiments. And part of the reason is because of the quality of produce. I think in Europe, people that I've spoke to who've been to Europe in the last 10 years say they can eat things over there that they cannot eat in America. And has to do with the bread and some of the produce.
Yeah, well, it says here that in 2002, the European Union adopted a general food law, which ensures a high level of protection of human life, and mandated that member countries pursue an integrated approach to food safety. And it also established the European Food Safety Authority, the EFSA.
Yeah.
And EFSA is known for stringent oversight of food safety and quality, and provides independent scientific advice to EU policymakers on food and feed safety, nutrition, animal health and welfare, plant protection, and plant health.
Yeah, the EU also vigorously supports its top food products. The EU geographical indications, called the GI system, labels certain foods, wines, and spirits as deriving from specific geographic regions. French champagne, Italian Parma ham, Greek feta cheese, for example, protecting those products from imitation, but also ensuring consumers know GI products are made with high quality inputs and traditional methods.
And by contrast, in the US, foods that get the heaviest marketing and the best product placement are generally foods with cheap and addictive ingredients that have documented bad health effects.
Another major difference in the EU's strict approach to regulation of additives, preservatives, pesticides, and other chemicals, the so-called precautionary principle, which is a fundamental element of the EU environmental policy, emphasizes caution and extensive review in considering approval of substances where safety information is uncertain or unknown.
Now, the EU consequently requires manufacturers to submit toxicity data to regulators before the regulators approve the use of any new chemicals, really.
In the United States, while the EPA requires safety assurances from industry for new chemicals under the Toxic Substances Control Act, this does not cover food or pesticides.
Well,
what's the point?
What?
The FDA reviews food additives, but under less stringent rules than the EU.
So the EPA does not cover chemicals in food or pesticides. So no wonder we're in the mess we're in.
Yeah, so as a result, the EU has banned many food additives still used in the United States. Among those are potassium bromate, added to flour to make the dough rise higher, and flavor enhancements and preservatives such as BHA and BHT, considered likely carcinogens.
Yeah, various food dyes linked to neurological problems are still allowed. Brain chemicals and additives that have contributed to brain cancer, ADD, ADHD. They allow bovine growth hormone, which causes health problems in cows, and others. And despite pressure from food safety groups and health organizations, U.S. regulators have yet to ban these substances.
Yeah, that's problems in cows and others, not you, not what the you.
Right, others.
That was funny. Well, similarly, with regard to pesticides, the EU regulations put the burden of proof on industry to demonstrate that products have no harmful effects on humans or animals.
In the United States, however, 72 pesticides are allowed, which are either banned or close to total phase out in the EU. In 2016, 322 million pounds of these pesticides, which is about a quarter of the US pesticide usage, were used in US agricultural production. And among those is glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup.
Yeah, detectable in the majority of US oat, wheat, and soy products. And despite findings by the International Agency for Research on Cancer and academic studies that the chemical is probably a probable human carcinogen, carcinogen, the EPA disagrees, saying its findings no evidence glyphosate possesses
that poor word.
Yeah,
Glyphosate.
Poses a cancer risk for humans.
And though the EU has issued mixed opinions on glyphosate, it did require a phase out by 2022. And the EU has also banned the 3 most commonly used neonicotinoids, insecticides linked to colony collapse disorder, which is killing bees. And there's no such ban in the United States.
Yes.
So the conclusion of the article says it's past time for U.S. regulators to adopt the European model, prioritizing sustainable farming, organic production, reduction or elimination of additives and pesticides, and protection of human and environmental health above all. So, and then
quite a bit of difference.
Yeah, that was interesting because it was a couple of years ago the article was written. So now we go on to
a new article, which is the truth about European food. Experts weigh in on whether it's better than the United States.
Yeah, well, plenty of people have posted on social media about how they effortlessly lost weight and felt physically better while vacationing or living in European countries. And based on those experiences, people have concluded European food is simply better. So now we're in 2025.
Yeah, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has long railed against aspect of the U.S. food systems, calling ubiquitous
means everywhere.
Right. Okay. Ultra-processed foods, poison that drive chronic disease rates among the Americans.
So the question is does Europe have higher quality food? And it turns out that seems by this article it does.
Yeah, it talks about here meat and poultry, however, is much better quality in Europe. Glee adds, who is one of the authors here, because they have more varieties to choose from, and consumers are more aware of where the meat comes from because of the labeling with their origins.
Yeah, and now basically they kind of looked at everything and said the produce seems to be about on par. Fruits and vegetables are fairly close to what we get here, and then it does go interestingly into how cultural differences impact perception.
Yeah, and this was one of the things I still remember when I was young in Holland, that pretty much we went shopping every day for whatever it was going to be dinner.
Yeah, you went to the market.
You went to the market.
And it was usually an open air market, right. It's like a farmer's market is today with the open air booths and so on.
Right.
But it says that one of the authors lived in the Netherlands, and he said it was normal to shop nearly every day for fresh groceries. In the U.S., it's much more common to shop for groceries weekly or sometimes monthly.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's what we do. We do it weekly.
Yeah, but but we're not buying fresh produce either.
That's true.
So we don't. It's not a matter of the food going bad while we're doing the week.
Yeah.
It says consumers. Where was it? That's what consumers want in Europe now and in U.S. So in the U.S., a bread that lasts a week, weeks on end, is more prevalent. For example, over fresh European bread that would get moldy in a couple of days because it doesn't have any preservatives in it.
Right, exactly. So shopping more frequently leads to greater turnover in European stores, the author says, meaning that there will be fresher ingredients more readily available as the food gets bought up.
Fresher food may influence taste. Now the question is, does it affect your weight? And one person posted on the internet, I lost 15 pounds without trying when I moved to France. I was not trying to lose weight. I even exercised a lot less when I lived in France. But this person explained that she was regularly eating baguettes, cheese, and butter, and she attributed her weight loss to the smaller portion sizes in France and the fact that meals included fruits and vegetables or a small salad to start, which upped her fiber intake. making her feel fuller for longer and supporting overall health. And desserts were often fruit, yogurt, and tea.
Yeah, that's quite a bit different than us. And I remember too, we talked in years past about the fact that the changes in the size of the plates
Mm.
in the United States, at least, that we found old plates that our grandfather and grandmother used were a
Well,
lot smaller.
I have a set of plates that I bought in 1974 when I first moved to Florida.
Mhm.
And the bread plates, or the side plates in today's dishware,
Mhm.
are the same size as the dinner plates
Yeah.
from the 1974 dishes.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so the author notes that in Europe, more people walk and bike, keeping residents more active than the car-centric Americans. Home-cooked meals focused on socialization and family time are also central to European culture. While Americans on average eat out at least 3 times a month and order takeout or delivery 4 to 5 times a month. When I read this paragraph, I flashed on when I was growing up, when you were growing up, every meal you ate with your family.
Yeah.
You had dinner every night, you sat down together at the table.
The only time we ever went out was a real special occasion. And
Even then, and if you went anywhere, I mean, maybe you went to grandma's for another meal over there.
Yeah.
It was always kind of the family and the.
Yeah, it was not to a restaurant. The only time I remember when I was young going to a restaurant to eat was with one of my buddies because we were in school,
Mhm.
or we were on vacation with my parents, and then
Then you would eat out.
you would eat out on the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
And of course, at that time, back in the 50s and early 60s, when we were traveling with my folks, there were no interstates.
Mhm.
So we were going down all these country roads,
Mhm.
and the cultures in all these small towns were so different than the interstate food.
Oh, yeah.
So
well,
we'd be going through Kentucky, and we wanted the fried chicken that was in
Right,
Kentucky,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah, not before
yeah,
Kentucky
you
Fried
ate
Chicken.
the local specialties.
Yeah, we were
and,
always
and it was home cooked, and it was local source as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
So so then it says, and today it's like we eat home 6 nights a week.
Yep.
Because we want to eat well.
Right.
And we want to know what we're eating.
Well, we don't want to go out either all the time. And,
No, but okay, but on Wednesdays we go out for dinner.
It's kind
That's
of our
our-
little date night.
Our
really.
date night.
We started
Yeah,
that 30
that's
years
right.
ago, right?
Right. And also we will meet friends for dinner.
Mhm.
But back in the 50s, you would have invited friends over for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, and now we just meet them at a restaurant. And it just seems like that's what you do with your friends. You eat together at a
culture has
restaurant.
changed for sure.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And so then it goes on to say, okay, what about seasonality? Eating what's in season.
Right.
Seasonality can also impact how Americans experience food in Europe, says the author. As many American tourists visit Europe in the summer, when foods are like peaches and tomatoes are at their peak, the perception of the food quality is based on eating foods when they actually taste the best.
Yeah, Europeans, the author argues, are more informed about what's in season, are more likely to buy in season produce over the Americans who may be used to buying strawberries or tomatoes year round. And that's true. We get a lot of produce from Chile and things like that.
Chile, yeah. Well, blueberries. I mean, we do buy blueberries because we like occasionally to have some, maybe some blueberries and sour cream on Sunday breakfast, And the blueberries during season, they come from California.
Yeah.
And off season, they come from Chile.
Right.
So it's we can get blueberries pretty much year round.
Yeah, you wonder if it's healthier. I mean, our ancestors always ate in season because
what was local.
Yeah. Otherwise,
if you didn't have blueberries where you lived, you didn't eat blueberries.
Right, unless you found a way to dry them or preserve them. And
well, you had to find them first.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But if you found them in the fall, you could probably keep a stash, through.
Yeah, you might be able to dry them, and
So they say Europeans are willing to pay higher prices for better quality foods than Americans, even though foods are available out of season across Europe. It's not common that Europeans will cook with these foods because they know the quality will suffer. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Here's
And
how,
people here are used to eating the watery tomatoes that have no flavor,
yeah.
That's, if occasionally I'll buy some cherry tomatoes or banana tomatoes, the little ones,
Yeah,
because they tend to have a lot of flavor.
and they're a
And
little tartar. I like that.
Yeah, and crispy and kind of
Right.
on the skin. And I cut them up and serve them with smoked salmon and cream cheese on a sourdough bagel. It's
Love it.
something. It's very good.
So
Anyway,
the article goes on to say how to find quality foods in the U.S.
so this is what the authors recommend. Think seasonally. Inform yourself about when foods are in season and which have been shipped from far away. If you see a peach that's been shipped from Chile, it's not going to be very fresh.
Yeah, be willing to pay a little extra for the better quality meats, poultry, and produce.
And we found, people very often say to us, "Oh, that meat's so expensive." And for that, I have several different responses. One is actually we eat less meat than we did because it's so
The portions, yeah.
the portions are smaller because the meat is much richer and satisfying.
Nutrient dense, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
and you feel full when you eat it.
Yeah, because of the fat content, right? And
Right.
we find a lot of people shy away from the fat.
Right.
And
And
more
we're
carbohydrates.
so it's good. And another reason is I don't want antibiotics and hormones in my food. I have never wanted that. I mean, many years ago, I read about a study in Puerto Rico where the food companies were testing their additives and so on the population of Puerto Rico, which is a protectorate or a territory of the United States. And the girls were getting their periods at 11. The stuff was full of hormones,
Yeah.
and it has affected them, definitely. So I don't want to eat that stuff at all. So, okay, and then if you want to buy fruits and vegetables out of season, the author recommends that you opt for frozen. Fruits and veggies are typically frozen when they're at their finest, ripest, richest, freshest stage, and it helps preserve the quality. Texture may suffer a bit, but they're your best option, says the author.
So I have the next article. Why doesn't American produce taste as good as Europe's?
Yeah, and that was the question of, is the soil any different? Is the climate different? So the article starts with, why does food seem to taste better in Europe? Is it because we North Americans are usually on vacation when we're there and we tend to idealize our culinary experiences? Or are the ingredients actually superior to what we get back home? And right there, I'll say, when we went to Canada and I tasted the Pepsi, I was in heaven, because it was not made with high fructose corn syrup. Right. It was made with sugar, and it tasted totally different and was delicious.
And they also, when you can find that in Mexico.
Yeah, yes, the Mexican Coke is also, the Coke is made without.
Yeah, the tomatoes, one of the authors here says the tomatoes have the perfect ratio of sweetness and acidity, tasting nothing like the watery produce I'm used to.
Yeah, an investigator, Julia Beluz, and she was checking. She decided she was eating a plate of spaghetti al pomodoro, and it changed her life, she said. And that's where she said, nothing like the watery produce she was used to in North America. Yeah. She embarked on a research journey throughout the United States that included food growers, flavor experts, and chefs, and wrote an article called Why Fruits and Vegetables Taste Better in Europe.
Yeah, in Italy, France, and other parts of Europe, taste reigns supreme. It is the most important factor in growing and selling produce, since this is what the customers want. They have higher standards that will not accept gigantic, mealy tomato in the middle of January. Rather, they wait for the smaller, juicier, more powerful tomatoes.
More flavorful, not powerful.
Yeah, rather powerful in flavor. Excuse my dyslexia.
Growers in North America, on the other hand, have responded to decades of pressure to grow bigger, heavier fruits and vegetables that are uniform in appearance. Customers want their produce all year round, even if it's out of season, and they want to pay the lowest price possible.
Yeah.
And picking larger tomatoes costs the grower less because it takes less time and labor to yield more product.
Reminds me of an experiment that they were doing, and I don't remember what decade it was, maybe the 80s or 90s, but they were introducing square tomatoes.
Oh, it didn't go over too well.
No, we didn't like that part of it. But they wanted to fit the whole thing in like a
It
package.
fits better in the carton.
Yeah.
Square tomatoes.
I'm surprised they haven't done that with the animals, right?
Oh, God.
It's changed the animals, no legs or something like that.
So Harry Klee is a tomato grower from Florida who developed a great tasting, nutrient-rich tomato called the Garden Gem. But that tomato will never be sold in the U.S. because it's too small.
The bottom line here is
a quote from Mr. Klee.
Yeah, the bottom line here with the industrial tomato is that tomatoes have been bred for yield, production, disease resistance. The growers are not paid for flavor. They are paid for yield. So the breeders have given them this stuff that produces a lot of fruit but doesn't have a lot of flavor.
Doesn't have any flavor, he says. Most supermarket tomatoes sold in North America share a genetic mutation that makes them all round, smooth, and deep scarlet red when they're ripe.
Yeah, the only problem is that this widely embraced mutation deactivates the gene that produces the sugars and aromas that are essentially for a flavorful tomatoes.
Yeah, the smell of it, of a fresh tomato out of the garden, is so good.
Maybe that's why we don't smell the tomatoes anymore.
Yeah. Interesting. And so it says, when researchers, there's another quote here, when researchers turned on the deactivated gene, the fruit had 20% more sugar, 20 to 30% more carotenoids when ripe, yet its non-uniform color and greenish pallor suggests that mainstream breeders will not be following suit. So we're stuck with beautiful tomatoes that taste like a mere hint of their former selves.
Yeah, and it sounds like we should take a lesson from Europe's approach to produce as more people express willingness to buy abnormally shaped fruits, vegetables, and hopefully that will extend to smaller than usual produce with richer flavor as well. And supermarkets will respond. Yeah.
So, wait a minute, abnormally shaped fruits. If those fruits are the only ones that are naturally shaped.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I remember first time I was looking at produce in, I think it was Nature's Food Patch over in Clearwater area of Florida. And the produce was a mess. It was all bruised and same thing at Whole Foods and, all these, and it was ugly.
But delicious.
But certainly tasted good.
Next article is a matter of taste, Europeans on American food. So now we get a perspective from the Europeans. We'll go down here where it's highlighted. Did we highlight anything in this thing?
No, this article wasn't in the list.
Oh, it wasn't? I'll take it out.
None of these were in the list. These were all the first 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 4. I guess we reached the end of it.
Yeah, we wanted to the point is that we could grow the produce the same way they do in Europe and get better tasting and more appealing produce, but it isn't profitable.
That seems to be the whole key of everything that's produced in the United States right now, including buying politicians. It just seems like it's an epidemic.
Which may or may not be profitable.
Certainly not to us. So it's disturbing. And at the same time, I think this is one of the reasons people are turning more to a style of eating that we're on, which is a carnivore diet, where we're reducing the produce.
Yeah, so let me give some examples.
Okay.
So last night we had short ribs
Yep.
made in the Instant Pot, which were delicious.
Mhm.
And I made as a side, I chopped up a little bit of mozzarella cheese. I chopped up some of the small tomatoes,
Tiny ones. Yep.
cut them into cubes, little cubes. I chopped up a couple of dried apricots and a few dried dates. And I put them all together with some olive oil
A little salt and seasoning.
and then cranked a little Himalayan salt on it.
Mhm.
And so it was a taste. It was just a little side dish. It wasn't a big portion at all. I mean, we're talking like 3 apricots and 5 dates and
Yeah.
a couple of
Well,
pieces.
another thing that happens.
But it was delicious.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And it went nicely with the meat.
Yep. Yeah, each time we have a little side of something, we'll even have a little sourdough bread when I'm fixing like a ribeye or something like that.
Mhm.
And then we dip that
Dipping
in oil.
oil.
Dipping oil. Yeah, and it just makes everything a lot easier. It's just we just don't feel good about eating a lot of produce.
Well,
And I think if we went to Europe, we probably
we
would
still wouldn't eat a lot of it, but we might eat.
probably eat more.
Eat
Yeah,
more.
might even eat some pasta. And
Right.
it's hard to find good pasta here.
Yeah,
that's
here
for
we
sure.
do the yam and buckwheat.
Yeah.
If we're going to do like clams and pasta.
Yeah.
But
Well,
we don't do that
maybe-
very often.
No, about once a year, it seems like. Yeah. So we've changed our food because I think taste is not as good, and because it made our life a lot simpler, and we're saving a lot more money too because the
Well-
produce tends to.
And it spoils. So,
Yeah.
before you know it, you've got something rotten in your vegetable bin,
Yeah.
and
One of the downsides of it, and we don't really consider it a downside because then we pick something else. A lot of times when we go to the farmer's market or wherever we're shopping for the meat, they won't have something that we usually
yeah,
like.
because
Chicken has been really rare.
yeah, they have to
find.
build the populations
Yeah, they'll
back
find
up
whole
after they.
chickens, but we don't really eat the white meat of the
Right.
chickens. It's not fatty enough for us.
Uh-huh.
So we'll generally stick to the thighs or the legs,
Mhm.
uh,
The leg quarters.
the leg quarters.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
lately we haven't
well,
been finding that either. So
yeah, and part of the problem is, of course, when the latest
chicken.
epidemic of avian flu, whatever it was, they slaughtered hundreds of thousands of chickens. It's going to take a while to build back up the population. But meanwhile, we have discovered rock Cornish game hens,
Yeah.
which are kind of fun
Yeah.
every now and again to do that.
Yeah, and we have
split-
duck once in a while.
Yeah, we have shrimp.
Mhm.
So we're eating lamb chops. We were eating pork chops, but consistently for a while there, the pork
We're not
chops were bad. By the time one day went by in the refrigerator, they were spoiled. We had to throw them out.
Yeah. Yeah, lamb chops are great. We've even eating some pork ribs, baby back ribs.
Short ribs. What else? Ribeye.
Lots of ribeyes.
Yeah, and we do eat some natural, no antibiotics, no hormones, bratwurst or something like that.
Yeah, and most of these are locally made. Which
Yes,
is nice
they're
too.
all they're sourced.
We do have some nice sources here in Colorado, so,
especially in our area.
yeah, in Durango area. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the show. We've been really complaining about the food that's in the United States, and a lot of people have, and it's all based on this high profit over subsistence, and people I think will pay for better quality, and also they're supporting the health community.
Well, now that Robert Kennedy he's already arranged and gotten agreement from a number of large manufacturers to get rid of the food dyes.
And also some of the fast food industry is switching over to tallow or lard instead of using the
seed oils.
The seed oils, which is another step that could be taking place. We have stopped doing any kind of fast food for maybe 25 years. I think.
Yeah, for
When
sure.
we traveled, I remember that we were eating our standard diet, and on the road we get so hungry, it almost forces you to stop at a McDonald's.
Forced you to stop.
Well, me, yeah, me mainly. I take the blame for that. For sure. But when we started changing the way we ate, we didn't have those cravings anymore.
Yeah, we
And
don't eat lunch. So.
Yeah, and we just didn't get those hunger pains anymore that used to drive me crazy. And so it makes it easier to travel too. So we've got a
It's
couple
easier
of
to get through your day in general when you're
Yeah.
not thinking about, oh my God, I'm so hungry, let me go to lunch.
Yeah, and when we're traveling now too, we usually have breakfast in the car.
Yeah,
that we boil.
hard-boiled eggs, and I pre-make the bacon, and we have bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Yeah, in the car while we're going. So
Yeah, okay.
catching up some miles. before we
Breakfast
eat.
used to be a $5 thing. Now it's a $25 thing.
Well, in some places, 35. Right?
Yeah, for eggs and bacon.
And if you go to a hotel and do it, it's $50.
Where we were in Flagstaff, and for when Nico was teaching his workshop, we went for breakfast at one place, and it was wonderful. And
it was like $25.
$25. And but that place wasn't open on Sunday. So on Sunday morning when we got up, people had recommended another place, and we went to the other place, and for bacon and eggs, no toast, no grits, no potatoes, nothing else,
and only 2 slices of bacon.
Yeah, we got 2 slices
instead of 4.
We got 2 slices of bacon and eggs, and it was over $40 for breakfast.
So we're not stopping.
We won't be going there.
So life on the road is usually with us that, of course, we don't have lunch typically. So we'll have breakfast in the car, and then we'll find a nice meat place on the road someplace. And we have several cities.
A steak.
Yeah, a steak place normally, or fish even.
Yeah. Right.
And we've got those pretty much marked on our map, just about every major city in the United States, or even
the routes that we take.
Yeah, the routes that
plus, I keep a logbook, so we've got a list of them.
Yeah, so, and we're going to look forward to that. So go back to these places and consistently good food. And once in a while, we've had
we were in Rapid City, South Dakota, of all places, on our way back from Michigan, from a Michigan trip. And we found on Main Street in Rapid City, South Dakota, an organic farm-to-table restaurant. And the food was delicious.
Yeah, and not that expensive. So
right.
You can find them, so you just have to look for them. Anyway, that's the show for today, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you on the next show.
Be well and be safe.